Why January pruning matters. 8 fruit trees that thrive and fruit better by summer. January may seem quiet in your garden, but it is a great time to prune many fruit trees while they re-dormant before spring growth begins. Pruning now helps you clearly see the tree structure, remove weak or crowded branches, and improve light and air movement through the canopy, all of which support healthier growth and better fruit later. By trimming in this cool season, you help trees use their stored energy more effectively for new buds and fruit instead of unproductive growth. Many gardeners aim for this winter window because it guides strong structure and prepares trees for a fruitful season ahead. One, apple trees, classic candidates for January pruning. Apple trees are among the most classic examples of fruit trees that benefit from a January prune. During this dormant period, the absence of leaves makes it easy to see the framework of the tree and decide which branches to remove or shorten. Removing weak, crossing, or inward-growing branches opens the tree's center, improving light and airflow, factors that help blossoms and developing fruit mature into juicy apples later in the season. Proper pruning also directs the tree's stored winter energy toward the most promising branches instead of unproductive growth. For these reasons, many gardeners choose mid-January to shape apple trees before spring growth begins. One of the biggest benefits of January pruning for apples is that it helps control tree height. Good height control ensures fruit stays within easy picking range and prevents overly vigorous limbs that might break under a heavy crop. When you prune judiciously, young spur wood, the small branches that carry most of the fruit, receives more sunlight and nutrients, which often leads to larger, tastier apples. Winter pruning also lets you remove damaged or diseased limbs that could otherwise drain the tree as strength. In this way, January pruning both simplifies tree shape and strengthens its potential to produce abundant fruit. Finally, timing matters for apples because pruning too early or too late carries risks. If you prune while there's still hard freezing weather, fresh cuts can be injured before healing begins. Conversely, pruning too close to bud break can stimulate new growth that isn't hardened off, exposing it to damage. January, tucked between these extremes, offers a sweet spot where the tree is still dormant but frost risk is diminishing. Two, pear trees, shaping sweet success by summer. Pear trees also respond particularly well to pruning in January, benefiting in many of the same ways as apple trees. Since pears produce much of their fruit on spurs that form on older wood, removing crowded or weak branches early in the year helps the tree focus energy on strong, productive wood. Pruning now opens the canopy and improves airflow, which discourages common fungal diseases that thrive in still, humid conditions once leaves emerge. Pear trees pruned during dormancy tend to put more energy into both flower bud development and healthy spring growth. This creates a favorable balance between vegetative growth and fruiting potential as summer approaches. In addition, controlling the shape and size of pear trees early in the season makes ongoing care easier. Trees that are too tall or wide can become difficult to manage, harvest from, and support heavy fruit loads without breaking limbs. By taking the time in January to set a good structural framework, you encourage stronger branch angles and better distribution of growth through the tree. This not only reduces the risk of breakage, but also helps sunlight reach every part of the tree, contributing to more even fruit ripening. With careful pruning, your pear tree is well positioned for both health and harvest. It's also worth noting that while January pruning is generally excellent for pears, careful attention to each cut still matters. Always remove dead, diseased, or crossing limbs first before making structural changes. Cutting too aggressively can lead the tree to waste energy on healing rather than fruiting, so aim for thoughtful, balanced pruning rather than a drastic overhaul. Three, citrus trees. Pruning for light and fruitfulness. Citrus trees, such as lemons, oranges, and limes, aren't dormant the way apples and pears are, but they still benefit from strategic winter pruning, especially in milder climates. For citrus, January pruning is less about dormancy and more about encouraging productive growth and improving canopy light penetration. By removing excess foliage, dead wood, and non-fruiting shoots, the tree can redirect energy toward flower bud formation and fruit set that will develop through spring and summer. This kind of careful shaping helps balance the tree so it doesn't produce lots of leafy growth at the expense of flowers and fruit. Research and gardening guides point out that light pruning at this time can stimulate the tree's natural fruiting cycle and improve overall productivity. Most citrus produce fruit on new wood, so pruning to let sunlight reach inner, older limbs encourages new shoots where flowers are most likely to form. Unlike some deciduous trees, citrus often continues growing through winter, especially indoors or in warm climates, so January becomes a chance to remove weak or crowded growth that could block light. Proper pruning can also help reduce pest and disease issues by opening the canopy and making it harder for insects to hide and breed. This pruning doesn't have to be drastic, just targeted and thoughtful, focusing on encouraging balanced growth and removing clutter. When done well, this early year attention can lead to both more flowers and bigger fruit later in the season. At the same time, it's important to be gentle with citrus pruning. Over-pruning can stress these trees and reduce their energy reserves, leading to fewer blossoms instead of more. Aim to remove only what's necessary to improve shape, airflow, and access to light, and make clean cuts with sharp tools. Four, quince. Boosting light and fruit set with winter pruning. Quince trees are similar to apples and pears in how they respond to winter pruning, making January an ideal time to trim them while they're still dormant. When you remove crowded or inward-growing branches, you help sunlight reach the center of the tree and improve airflow, which encourages stronger bud development this spring. Pruning at this stage also helps redistribute stored energy from old wood into future fruiting branches and buds that will develop into blossoms. Since quince holds its buds into spring, clear structure in January can mean a more abundant and even fruit set later in the season. This careful early pruning lays the groundwork for a healthier, more productive tree by summer. In practice, many gardeners start by removing any dead or weak limbs first to prevent disease pressure as growth resumes. Then they thin out crossing branches and reduce overly vigorous shoots that can crowd the tree as interior. By keeping cuts clean and making selective removals, you avoid excessive stress and let the quince tree focus on quality growth. Light pruning now also makes summer care easier because the shape is already balanced and airy. Ultimately, a well-pruned quince tree in January often produces larger, juicier fruit when harvest time arrives. Finally, pruning quince in January gives you a chance to inspect the tree up close when it is leafless. You can more easily spot structural issues like narrow branch angles or old wood that is unlikely to produce fruit. This visibility lets you plan cuts that improve form and function instead of just shortening branches randomly. When you think about what the tree needs, better spacing, light access, and strong scaffolding, January pruning becomes a powerful strategy for better fruit production. 5. Nashi Asian pear. Pruning for balanced growth and sweet yield. Nashi pears, often called Asian pears, also benefit from January pruning because it's still within their dormant season before new growth starts. Removing excess branches and thinning the center opens up the tree, which lets light and air reach all parts of the canopy, a major factor in strong flower bud development and improved fruit size. Fruit quality in Nashi pears depends on good light exposure and branch spacing, both of which are enhanced when pruning is done while the tree isn't actively growing. By cutting back crossing or inward growing limbs at this time, you direct the tree's stored energy into productive spurs rather than wasted shoots. When pruning Nashi in January, aim to keep a balanced central leader, main vertical stem, and evenly spaced scaffold branches. Too many vigorous upright shoots can take energy away from flower bud formation. Light thinning reduces this competition and encourages steady, rather than frantic growth once spring arrives. Removing weak wood also helps prevent fungal issues later because better airflow discourages disease. Overall, the selective cuts you make in January allow the tree to focus its strength where it counts most, on healthy buds that become fruit. Starting with a clear structural plan makes the rest of the growing season smoother. When branches are well spaced and the tree's energy is strategically directed, Nashi pears have a much better chance of developing big, crisp fruit. A thoughtful January prune is like planning ahead. It balances growth, supports fruit-bearing wood, and gives the tree a healthy framework to flourish. Gardeners who prune Nashi early often notice stronger spring shoots and a more abundant summer yield than those who leave pruning until later. Six. Figs. Managing size and encouraging fruiting with a cool season cut. Fig trees may not go fully dormant like apples and pears in cold climates, but in mild winter regions they do slow growth enough that a careful January prune makes sense. Removing old or unproductive wood now helps the tree put more strength into developing the new growth that will bear fruit in summer. Pruning figs in winter also makes it easier to control size. Many fig varieties can become sprawling and heavy, which can shade lower fruiting wood if left unchecked. A well-timed prune clarifies structure and lets sunlight warm the inner canopy, a big benefit for fruit ripening later in the season. During this dormant window, you also have a clear view of the tree's shape and can remove weak, dead, or inward-growing branches without the distraction of leaves. Cutting back vigorous shoots that aren't contributing to fruiting reduces competition for nutrients, which can help figs set more fruit in the warmer months ahead. Light shaping now carries through to easier harvesting and better airflow around the crown. With better air circulation, fungal problems like rust or mold are less likely to take hold once leaves emerge. In this way, January pruning helps keep fig trees both productive and healthier through summer. When you prune figs early, aim for balance rather than drastic removal. Too much cutting can delay growth or reduce yields. Instead, focus on refining the framework, keeping good fruiting branches and removing crowded extras. This measured approach preserves the tree's natural strength while encouraging a productive growth pattern. By the time warm weather returns, a fig tree that's been lightly pruned in January is ready to grow vigorously and reward you with abundant sweet fruit. Seven. Citrus trees. Light pruning for maximum fruit potential. Citrus trees, like lemons, oranges, and mandarins, don't go fully dormant the way deciduous trees do, but in cooler winter months their growth slows enough that gentle pruning in January can be beneficial. The goal with citrus isn't aggressive cutting, but rather creating a canopy that lets sunlight reach as many leaves and fruiting sites as possible. By removing dead wood, crossing branches, and crowded shoots now, you help the tree focus energy on producing flowers and fruit later in the year. Citrus trees produce fruit on new wood, so improving light penetration and airflow boosts both flowering and fruit set. Pruning citrus in January can also help manage the tree's size and shape, making harvesting easier and reducing the risk of limb breakage under heavy fruit loads. Cleaning up the center of the tree improves air circulation, which can reduce the incidence of pests and fungal issues that thrive in dense foliage. While you should avoid heavy cuts that remove too much growth at once, selective trimming makes a big difference in how the tree allocates its resources. January becomes a good window to clean up last season's overgrowth before spring growth accelerates. When you prune citrus, use sharp, clean tools and make cuts just above a bud that is pointing in the direction you want new growth to go. This helps guide the tree's shape over time and keeps new shoots from growing inward where they crowd the center. Keeping the tree balanced ensures that blossoms are well spaced and get the sunlight they need to develop fruit successfully. With just a little attention in January, your citrus trees are set up to be healthier and more fruitful through the warmer months. This gentle shaping now often leads to more abundant, flavorful harvests later on. Grapes and berries. Winter pruning for summer fruit. Grapevines benefit strongly from pruning when they're dormant in winter because cutting back old, unproductive canes directs the plant's energy into healthy buds that will produce fruit later in the season. Pruning in this cool season also improves airflow and sunlight exposure throughout the vine, which helps reduce disease pressure and encourage more consistent bunch development as summer arrives. By removing overcrowded or weak growth, you give the vine a clearer structure that is easier to manage and lets fruiting canes thrive instead of being crowded out. Many experienced gardeners aim to prune grapevines in early to mid-winter before sap flow begins because dormant pruning supports healthier growth later. With careful winter trimming, grape plants are better positioned for a strong and flavorful summer harvest. Berry bushes such as blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries also appreciate pruning in winter when they redormant because this helps the plants focus energy on new, fruitful canes instead of old or weak stems. Removing old wood and thinning crowded branches improves light penetration and airflow, which encourage the plant to grow stronger shoots in spring and bear larger, healthier fruit in summer. Different berry types have slightly different pruning needs, but the basic principle is the same. Clear out the weak and unproductive growth now so the plant can put its energy into the best potential fruiting wood later. This early season care makes summer harvests more plentiful and the plants healthier overall. As you prepare vines and berry bush during the winter window, you're giving them a head start toward abundant, delicious results in the warmer months. Conclusion: a prune tree is a prepared tree. Pruning in January isn't just a chore. It's a strategic way to help your fruit trees enter spring with strength and focus. By removing deadwood, crowded limbs, and inward-growing branches while the trees are dormant, you improve light exposure, air circulation, and overall structure, all factors that support healthy bud formation and stronger fruiting later in the year. This careful winter attention also reduces disease risk and helps the tree balance its energy toward fruit production rather than chaotic vegetative growth. Remember that timing and technique matter. Wait until dormancy is well established and always use clean, sharp tools for precise cuts that heal faster and reduce stress. With the pruning tips you've learned here, your garden will be poised for bigger, better fruit, making all that winter effort pay off in lush summer yields that reward your care.